This chocolate cake is magical, rich and intensely chocolate, as well as a little nutty from amaretto and almond flour. It's also light, airy, and bakes up almost souffle-like through the use of a meringue. A meringue is essentially egg whites and sugar that have been whipped into a stabilized foam. So to start, we're going to separate 6 eggs, but pay close attention here. The only way you can mess up a meringue is if you get any kind of fat in the egg whites, so it's important to make sure that you don't break your yolks while separating the eggs. Crack the eggs on a flat surface, and then open them with your thumbs on top so that any pieces of the shells don't puncture the yolk. And to give myself some additional insurance, just in case I do break a yolk, I like to add whites to a separate bowl and then pour them every so often into the mixing bowl, which by the way should be completely free of grease, so be sure to wash it very well in advance. Any oily residue would prevent the egg whites from whipping up. Now we won't be whipping up the meringue right away, so set these aside and we'll come back to them in a moment. First, we want to quickly prep our pan. So I have a 9-inch spring-form pan here, and I'm just greasing it with some oil. And I'm also going up the sides in a vertical motion, which will help the cake rise. And then I'm adding a round of parchment paper, and I'm getting it coated in the oil and then giving it a flip so that both sides are greased. And at this point, you should add a small handful of sugar and rotate and pour out the excess. But guess what? I forgot to do that, and the cake still turned out great. With that out of the way, let's prep the chocolate mixture, which will get folded into the meringue. I have 10 ounces or 283 grams of semi-sweet chocolate. Preferably go with 66 to 68% cacao, and try to find a good quality one. It will make a difference. And after all, cakes are for special occasions. Now to the chocolate, I'm adding a half cup of neutral oil, and then 3 tablespoons of amaretto. And be sure to use a heat-proof bowl because we're now going to melt this over a bain-marie. So I have a couple inches of water. It shouldn't touch the bottom of your bowl, and it's on a vigorous simmer. And I'm constantly stirring the mixture just until it's melted and emulsified, and removing it from the heat right away to allow it to cool slightly. Once just barely warm, I'm adding 1/4 cup of water, and give it a mix until incorporated. And then I'm going in with the reserved egg yolks, as well as 1/2 cup or 60 grams of almond flour, and giving everything a mix until evenly combined. Now set that aside while we prepare the meringue. In a stand mixer fitted with the whisk attachment, I have the egg whites, as well as 1 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to gradually increase the speed to high, and beat until the egg whites are nice and foamy. And at this point, with the speed still on high, we're gradually adding 1/2 cup or 100 grams of sugar in a slow and steady stream. Once all of the sugar is added, we'll continue to beat on high until we have stiff peaks. See how the meringue is still drooping? That means it's not ready. Keep going until you have a firm, stiff peak. And at this point, we'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and briefly beat just to incorporate. And now it's time to fold the meringue into the chocolate mixture. We're going to add it in 3 parts, and what this does is incorporate some air into the chocolate mixture so that it doesn't deflate the meringue. And by the way, I actually overwhipped my meringue quite a bit, which is why it's not mixing in as easily. But I'm showing you this because, yes, baking is a very precise thing, but it's more forgiving than you think, and even if you over whip your egg whites like me, you'll still have a delicious chocolate cake. The batter goes into our prepared pan, and to the top, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, which will add a nice crunchy layer on top. And finally, in it goes to the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 to 35 minutes until it's dramatically risen and a cake tester comes out moist with only a few crumbs. Allow the cake to cool completely, and then going around the edges, remove the outer ring, and serve. Enjoy!